Good evening. We gather tonight to tell an old story.
A story of bitterness and betrayal, of despair, denial, and death.
We gather also to tell an even older story, prepared before the worlds began.
A story of love powerful enough to rewrite our endings with the promise of new life.
In the telling of the story, in the breaking of the bread, in the coming of the night,
we draw near once more to Christ. Journey to Gethsemane, go and feel the tempter's power. Your Redeemer's conflict see, watch the anguish of this hour. Do not hide or turn away, learn from Jesus how to pray. Follow then to Pilate's hall, view the Lord of life arrayed, crowned with thorns and mocked by all. Faithfully this pain sustained, greater still than shame or loss, Jesus now must face the cross.
Will you join me in the prayer of confession? God, your faithfulness is so great that we cannot but help but fall short. Still, we come to you in hope.
For each time you asked us to stay with you, but we wandered away. Forgive us. For each time we fell asleep on the job of being your disciples. Forgive us. For each time we boasted of loyalty, yet betrayed you, or denied you, or crept away. Forgive us. For each time we hear this story and think, we would do better. Forgive us. May we take your gift of mercy and share it with the world that you have loved so much. Amen.
Friends, this is how we know that God loved us. Even though we have fallen short, Christ has given himself for us.
Let us love one another as Christ has loved us.
Well, welcome one and all on this Thursday evening to this remembrance of the last days of Jesus' life on earth. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, wherever you are in your beliefs about what happened with Jesus and what it means for us, you are welcome here to reflect with us. Thursday is the time each year when we come together to remember those last days of Jesus' life. It's not a pretty story. It's a story of lies and betrayal, a story of violence and corruption, a story of death and grief. There's enough of that stuff in our own lives, so why would we want to rehearse these old wrongs done so long ago? Well, first, we tell this story each year so that we can contemplate the depth of what Jesus did for the world. And what was that? In the face of pressure and threats, he told the truth. In the face of betrayal by friends, he remained faithful. In the face of death, he continued to heal and to teach, to forgive even the criminals and killers who were all around him. So on this night, we remember that Jesus gave his life not just for his friends, but even for his enemies. And second, we tell this story each year so that we can contemplate our own lives in the light of this tremendous gift. In each part of the story, as we hear it tonight, in each character, each person who is told about along the way, we will hear echoes of ourselves. We'll recognize our own capacity for betrayal and deception, for fear and for violence. We'll face our own grief about our mortality. We'll also see our own potential for faithfulness, for truth-telling, for integrity and determination, for love and compassion and courage. We will see ourselves loved and forgiven by Jesus in spite of our failings and limitations. And we will be reminded that even death cannot take God's love away. And so to retell Jesus' story is to get to know ourselves a little bit better. To hear Jesus' story is to feel more deeply our connection, our utter dependence on God's grace and God's love and God's Spirit. To listen again to this story is to dare to walk headlong into all the dark places of our souls, trusting that God can bring us out into the light. So tonight we will hear the story again, this time as recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. After each reading, a light will be extinguished in an ancient practice called tenebrae, which just means shadows. You may hear parts of the story you had not focused on before as you listen tonight. And there will be details from other Gospels that you may have heard that will be missing this evening. But if you listen carefully, you might also find yourself in the story as you walk with Jesus from the table to the cross. You may even hear God calling you to a life of faith and courage, calling you to trust in the light that shines in the darkness. May it be so.
On the first day of the unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and they were eating. He said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him, one after another, "Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "One who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." He replied, "You have said so."
While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." He took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom.
Now, remembering that supper on that last occasion that Jesus ate with his friends, I invite you to receive this bread and cup, signs of Christ's body and blood, given for all in forgiveness and love. I invite you to come down the center aisle to receive the elements and then to return to your seats by the side aisle. And I ask the deacons who are helping to come forward.
Christ at table there with friends, sharing bread and wine, and then speaking words of mystery. Thus remember me, thus remember me. In the garden Jesus bows, harsh the cry that rises now. Father, some way let it be. Take this cup from me. Take this cup from me. Yet your will, not mine, be done. For this purpose I am come, thus to make all people new. I take this cup from you. I take this cup from you. At our table Jesus stands, Word of God with nail-scarred hands. Come receive the mystery, take this cup from me, take this cup from me.
After they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters because of me this night. For it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all of the disciples said the same.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee and began to be grieved and agitated. Then he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and stay awake with me." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." Then he came to the disciples and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "So you could not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray with me that you may not come to the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, he went away for the second time and prayed, "My Father, if this cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done." Again, he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So leaving them again, he went away and he prayed for the third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the disciples and he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? See, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
While Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs, from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day, I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, in whose house the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus, so that they might put him to death. But they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and struck him. And some slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Who is it that struck you?"
Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you are talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystander, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
Ah, holy Jesus, how have you offended slain you, and I, dear Jesus, it was denied you. I crucified you. For me, kind Jesus, was your incarnation, your mortal sorrow, and your life's oblation, your death of anguish, and your bitter passion for my salvation. Therefore, kind Jesus, since I cannot pay you, I do adore you, and will ever pray you. Think on your pity and your love unswerving, not my deserving.
When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas his betrayer saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. He said, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they said, what is that to us? See to it yourself. Throwing down the pieces of silver in the temple, Judas departed, and he went and hanged himself. But the chief priests, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, since they are blood money. After conferring together, they used them to buy the potter's field as a place to bury foreigners. For this reason, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of one on whom a price had been set by some of the people of Israel, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me.
Now, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, you say so. But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, do you not hear how many accusations they make against you? But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, whom do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas, or Jesus who was called the Messiah? For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him. Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, Which of the two do you want me to release to you? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, Then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? All of them said, Let him be crucified. Then he asked, Why? What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, Let him be crucified. So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing and that a riot was beginning, he took some water, washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. Then the people answered, His blood be on us and on our children. So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! They spat on him, and they took the reed and they struck him in the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe, and they put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God. In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. He saved others, they said, but he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God. In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Christ of glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride. From sacred head, from hands and feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a is my soul, my life, my all.
From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, Ali, Ali, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, this man is calling for Elijah. At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last.
At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. After his resurrection, they came out of the tombs and entered the holy city and appeared to many. Now when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, truly, this man was God's son. Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had provided for him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. So Joseph took the body and wrapped it in clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn in the rock. Then he rolled a great stone to the door of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting opposite the tomb.
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it.